Welcome to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. Hi everyone, guess who? It's me, I'm back. We're here on USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio, and our show today is I have a story to tell, but of course it is not my story. Last week I had the pleasure of interviewing our guest today on the same platform, and I was so impressed with her and knew that there was so much more that we wanted to hear about her that I invited her back. So joining us from Norway is Polyana. Welcome.
Hello.
So
Hello.
good to
So nice to
see
meet
you.
you.
I can't believe it's a week already since I saw you last. This week just
Yes.
flew by. So I just want to, for folks who weren't watching or listening last week, they can go over to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV, and they can watch the show from last week. But I'd like to just give people an introduction about you and some of the things that you're doing. And also to clarify, we're going to be showing your banner. Your name, Polyana, is spelled one way here, and it's spelled a different way on the banner. So would you just address that first?
Yes. As a little girl, my father used to tell me that he picked this name for me, Pollyanna, because he read the books Pollyanna and Pollyanna Grows Up. And she was a super optimistic little girl who grew up to be a very optimistic woman, and he wanted that for me. So he named me after her, but he didn't want the spelling to clash with Brazilian spelling of names because Brazilian Portuguese spells the name differently. But I keep it as in honor of my dad who named me after that little girl.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Thank you, Pollyanna. Last week we had you on the show because you were a finalist in Miss Regal World, and you shared that experience with us. But you're also an educator, and you also have a huge passion about languages and really getting people interested in learning more than one language, multiple languages. So I'd like to just touch on that. It's interesting. I shared this backstage with you that the show we just had before this, Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure, we spent the whole show talking about Italy and what a beautiful country it is, and of course what a beautiful language that is. So which are the languages that mean the most to you, and why?
Well, I grew up speaking Portuguese and English. My dad always spoke English to me. Both my parents are Brazilian, but they both love languages, and my dad was in love with the culture of the United States. So I grew up speaking Portuguese and English. Then, when I was about 6 or 7, we went on a trip to Peru, and I started to hear people speaking Spanish. And I wondered what that was because I could understand quite a bit of it, but it wasn't Portuguese. So I got so interested in it that I wanted to learn Spanish. So I started learning Spanish as well. And when I was 29 years old, I started to learn Norwegian. And that's a story that began all the way in Australia when I was getting my master's.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And it seems like it would be one of those languages that isn't that easy to learn. Am I right? Or
Pronunciation is what's the most difficult. It's almost like aerobics for your face. They have sounds I never knew existed, like e, and sounds like sometimes I feel like an alien trying to. I hear my voice, I don't even recognize it because they have more letters than we do, and they have more vowel sounds that I have to really I struggle to make them, especially the it's aerobics for your face. So the pronunciation was hard, but not the grammar. The grammar was quite easy compared to Portuguese and Spanish. They're very intricate in verb conjugation, structure. So when you come from that background, learning the grammar of Norwegian is not that difficult.
according to you, I'll trust your judgment. For me, I don't know, but it's amazing what you've accomplished. And I'm wondering, this love of language and being an educator, how did that come into play in your role for the pageant, Miss Regal World?
It really helped me a lot because most of the contestants were from different countries, and but a lot of them were from countries where English is the first language. So had I not had English in my life as I've had it, I wouldn't have been able to compete on the same level and communicate with everyone to the same level. And this is one of the things that I really want to do for next year. And I've been talking to the pageant director. I want to provide translation services. I want to do translation for them so they can answer the questions, they can participate in the video conferences, because a lot of times there are Brazilian girls who really want to be in a pageant like that, but they wouldn't feel like they could enter because they wouldn't be able to participate. And I think it's really important to give them a voice.
I think that's outstanding. I really appreciate that. And I think you're going to make it happen.
Yes, I'm already talking to a few girls that are interested, and Brazilian girls have a passion for music and dance and soccer and things that I really never learned. But I think these girls that I know, they can represent these parts that I never learned how to do the samba. And I'm from Brazil, and this is something I have to do. I plan to live to be 100. And before that happens, before I turn 100 years old, I have to learn how to do the samba and capoeira, which are very Brazilian aspects of the culture that I never learned. Have you heard of capoeira before?
I have not, no.
It's a martial art, a Brazilian martial art. But when you look at it, it looks like people are dancing. So you don't really know that they're practicing a martial art. This was invented by the slaves because they wanted to train so that they could escape. So they pretended to be dancing and they played music with instruments that they made. And they did this marvelous, it looks like a dance, but it is a fight. So if they need to really defend themselves, they can do it just by using capoeira.
What a genius idea.
And this is something that's so Brazilian that sometimes I feel like I want to reconnect to that aspect of my culture, the things that I never really learned. I was once in town here in Trondheim, where I live in Norway, and I heard music. It sounded like they were singing in Portuguese, and I heard a very familiar instrument called berimbau, which is a very Brazilian instrument as well. Makes a particular sound. Do I really hear this? So I followed it. I followed the sound, and I saw these Norwegian kids all dressed in white like the capoeira people do in Brazil, and they were doing capoeira. And I had tears in my eyes when I saw that because I was like, wow. And they did it so well, and I felt, hey, I should learn. Look at these Norwegian kids doing capoeira, and I'm from Brazil and I never learned. So I this is something I still have to do. I have a list of things I want to do before I turn 100.
And I'm sure you'll accomplish all of them. It's wonderful. Pollyanna, I want to go back to your role as a professor and an educator. But before we do that, can you just share with our audience what that whole experience was like being in the pageant and why people should get out of their comfort zone and register for pageants? Because we had somebody else on earlier, Haley, your friend, and she shared about the fact that she never in a million years thought that it would turn out to be anything, and she ended up walking away with the crown, right?
Absolutely. Well, I was that little girl that watched every Miss America, Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss Brazil. Every single year, I would sit and watch, and I would just dream and fantasize that I could do that one day. But it never really became anything. I entered a couple of pageants at school. I lost a lot of them, and I won one of them. And the one that I won, it gave me such a wonderful feeling to win that crown and that sash. And it was a feeling I never experienced again. And I was, I think, 14 or 15 years old. So when I saw the ad for Miss Regal World, it was like, oh, this is like a sign or something. It was online. I was able to participate without leaving my home. And they even had a category, a division for my age group, which was fantastic because I am 49 years old. So I had already given up any dreams of entering an international pageant by then. But when I saw the ad for Miss Wriggle World, I thought, wow, I can enter. They have divisions for women of all ages, really. And I felt that was for me. That was for me. I really appreciated the fact that I could do it from my home, that I could do it without any professional equipment. They asked us to take our own photos, to do our own videos, and it made it more accessible. It made that dream more attainable. And I had a lot of fun participating, and I became a finalist, which was to me like to be top six was I couldn't believe it when they called my name. And I had a fantastic time, and I feel like more women should do that. It's a fantastic feeling because not only do you feel, okay, I can do this. I can put on a beautiful gown and I can do my pageant walk, but you also get to meet a lot of nice people.
It seems like a really nice community, and Victoria was here with us. Victoria George Veal. It's her program that she has founded, correct?
Yes, and Victoria is super competent in this area because she herself is an international title holder and she was perfect. She was very good with giving us feedback and making us feel like we were a part of a family, the Regal World family. And we're still all in touch. And this was the part that I think paid off the most, to have the Miss Regal World family, to be a part of that.
And you mentioned that you're going to continue going on for next year and getting translators. So, do you feel with all the work that you're doing in education that it's also very important for you to continue being part of the whole pageant community?
I feel it is. And a lot of people have this misconception that you can't be a pageant girl and a very smart girl. And that is something that's completely wrong. Every pageant girl that I have met is very, very smart. And I feel like you can put everything together, get that self confidence that the stage gives you, and pair it up with studying, getting an education, because to me getting an education means freedom. Education is freedom. And these girls that I met, all of them are going on in life to do wonderful things and to teach people through their own experiences.
I love how you just really summed it up that you can be beautiful, intelligent, educated. You can have it all. And what's the first step to doing that? Getting out of your box, getting out of your own way, overcoming the fear and just stepping out into the light. And I'm glad that you were able to share that with people, because the reason we're here is to inspire others and get people to come forward and share their story. And so if you want to have a story, you've got to get out there and make one, right?
Absolutely. I've felt very fortunate because my whole life, sometimes I think that my life could be either a book or a mini series. They would probably make it a book and then they'd have to make it into a mini series because I've done so many different things throughout my life. And I feel like I'm the star of my own life, and everybody should feel that way because you are the protagonist and you make your destiny, like that omniscient narrator of your story, telling the story. And I feel that through ups and downs, having an optimistic outlook in life has really helped me. The past almost 20 years, I've been living in Norway. I've been living away from my country, Brazil, and away from the US is my country at heart because I lived there studying. And I feel sometimes that it is very important to keep that optimism going. Last year with the pandemic, I felt so isolated, and that's how I found the Miss Real World pageant. It was an online pageant that was fashioned for for those times when all those pageants were getting canceled and people couldn't do things. And that's how I found the pageant online. I live a lot of my life online because that's how I communicate with my family in Brazil, in the US, and how it's my window into the world. So I feel very comfortable in the platform like this.
And we're so glad that you're here and sharing your story. And I think it's interesting that technology has enabled so many things to continue in a different format. So earlier we were talking to a guest who is used to being on the stage, being in a theater, and now performing across this medium, and beauty pageants across this medium. It's wonderful. I mean, obviously what we've all gone through is very traumatic, and mental health issues in many cases, and sense of loss, but a lot of wonderful things have come out of it as well. And I think our being able to use this technology to get people introduced to one another and connected and networking and growing and learning, it has really been phenomenal.
Throughout that entire time, at first I was really scared because I didn't know how am I going to teach? What am I going to do when they locked us all down? But then pretty quickly I started teaching the classes online, and it worked for the most part. Some students had some difficulties, but we were able to continue learning. And with language, they had to be on video and they had to interact, because you can't just teach language just by I'm going to talk and you're going to write. No, they have to participate and talk as well, and listen and repeat. So it made it possible for them not to lose all that time throughout the pandemic last year, when we were locked down here in Norway. We were locked down for 3 months, 3 months without going anywhere. And during those times I was teaching my kids online, and we got to know each other a lot better because I was basically available all day. They would message me at different times and while they're doing work, and I felt like in many ways it got a lot of people closer together.
I agree with you. When I think about this platform, USA Global TV, and I think about the people I've interviewed. So you're in Norway, the person before was in Italy, and the person before that, I think, was in France. I mean, just people from all over the world, and we're able to connect like this and get to know each other. And so I know for my education, when I got my doctorate, I actually did it online, and then met with the people for residency, and it was kind of cool to have that experience, and then also to be in person. And in many cases that's what's happening here as well. People are connecting online, and then when places are opening, they're able to meet in person.
And this is what made a big difference for me. I was just starting at that new school. I had only been there for a few months when this happened. And at first I felt, oh no, this is going to interrupt everything. But I felt like I was able to give continuity to what I was doing through being online. And teaching languages is something that has to be done with the interaction, and it has to be done in a way where people can use the language as a tool for communication. So I wouldn't have been able to just do it. A lot of teachers have actually not been on camera with their students during that time. Teachers in other countries, in other places, they just sent PDF for the kids to do, but that's not the same. I feel like that communication is very important. And I feel like the technology has made it possible. A lot of people started language courses during that time because they were on lockdown and they didn't know what to do, and they started learning online.
And learning online can be extremely effective. At least that's what I found in my experience. That what I did was asynchronous learning. So you had to have certain things done by certain times, but yet you could go on and do it when you wanted to do it, as long as you met the deadlines.
Yeah, and it's very effective also because you have your space, and maybe if you want to get into a conference and talk and experience that face to face, you can do it. But on your own time, you can also get a lot of stuff done. Having a deadline is very helpful to be able to have that. With high school kids, a lot of them were very discouraged and they didn't really feel like it was going to work. So what I did, I used my YouTube channel and I told them, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do it like I'm broadcasting, just like you're watching a show on YouTube. And then I'll ask questions and you don't have to be on video. I'll be on video. You type the answers in. We do that for part of the class and then we go into Skype or Zoom or something and we will interact and talk. And they felt like the classes went by faster this way because we're changing activities. We're using Duolingo. Have you heard of Duolingo before?
The app?
Yes. Have you used it before?
Yes, I actually was taking Italian and French because I took French lessons. I wanted to brush up, and then I wasn't going to travel, so I stopped doing it. But it's a great app.
It is. And what we did is we had little Duolingo competitions. Let's see how many of you can get to 1,000 XP by this day. And then we would exchange screenshots of what they had done. And it was really fun. I try to make these classes something that can be enjoyable. Even with all that, some kids will say, no, let's do something fun. Let's do something different. But I try to do different things with them all the time. I feel like this generation needs to be constantly reassured, entertained, and they can't really have one type of activity. I change activities in my classes that I teach every 15 minutes or so. I see that people start to get bored or distracted, and I change activities constantly. And they're like, wow, oh, the time has already gone and the class is finished already. They don't feel it because I pace it that way. I feel like I had to evolve. I've been teaching since I was 18 years old. I started as a student teacher and I taught little children. With the little children, I taught them songs in English and I taught them just names of different things. And it was just vocabulary and fun. And later on, as the years went by, I started to get groups that were older and I started to get more content. I've taught classes for the TOEIC test of English for international communication. And that is where I see nowadays it's still relevant, the TOEIC, because a lot of people take that test so that they can get into work and prove that they can speak and understand English. And I really enjoy sharing knowledge with people. I get almost like an adrenaline rush when I see somebody that was my student from zero, started from scratch. When I see them making sentences on their own in a language they didn't speak before, that gives me a sense of happiness that nothing else can give me.
That sounds very rewarding, and I can see your face light up and how passionate you are about that.
I have a little daughter. Well, not little. She's 15, but I keep forgetting. I call her baby Skylar, I say, and I keep telling her, hey, when I'm 100 and you're 67 and we're two old ladies walking down the street, I'm gonna be like, baby Skylar, let's go. And people are gonna be baby Skylar because I call her baby. She's now 15, and I taught her Portuguese, Norwegian, and English from when she was little because we speak a lot of Portuguese in the house and we speak English as well because my husband and I communicate in English, although he's Norwegian. And we speak Norwegian when we're doing homework or something for school for her. Then we read everything in Norwegian. Sometimes we translate, sometimes we can't find the word for one thing in one language, so we use the word for it in another language that we speak. So communication here is never going to be a problem. There are so many ways that we can say things to one another. So I'm very proud of my daughter. I think I talk about her all the time. She's everything. When she was born, I think I became more optimistic, even more optimistic, and got even more drive to do things in life for her as well.
That's beautiful. Is she following in your footsteps in terms of wanting to be in pageants?
Not exactly, but she loves performing. She loves dancing and she loves being on stage like that. She loves doing different artistic makeup. So she's a very expressive girl in that department. But she's a little bit shy when it comes to pageants. But she loves dancing. She's a very good dancer. She did African dance at school. Here in Norway, they have fantastic programs, after school programs for the kids. She went to a multicultural school where they had kids that spoke 40 different languages. Because of this, they had kids, for example, from Turkey. So they had a program for the kids who were from Turkey so they could get an education in Norwegian and in Turkish as well. And they had programs with dance and they had language storytelling, sports, and all kinds of things after school. And she got really interested in African dance at the time. And she really thrived at that school. They have very, very good programs here in Norway. You can't complain about anything about Norway. I do complain about one thing, that about the cold. Everything else I have no problems with.
It sounds like a wonderful place to live. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about the education system there. We were talking backstage, and it seems like it's a little bit different than it is here in the States.
Yes. So here the kids start school when they're 6 years old, they start first grade and they have 13 years of school. So by the time they finish high school, they are 18, 19 years old. A lot of the kids, they can also decide to leave high school on the 11th or 12th grade and get a technical degree, which means they can get a degree to become a construction worker, a painter, a builder. They can also get a degree to become an electrician or a nurse's assistant. But if they want to continue studying, then they have to take the 13 years so they can get into college and do a different program. But most of the kids, they will go on to have amazing careers. And here in Norway there is a lot of equality in salaries, in lots of opportunities for people. And it is a fantastic country to live in. The education is amazing. I've been a part of the system for almost 20 years teaching. I've taught almost every grade from 8th, yeah, from 8th until 12th. I haven't taught the 13th grade yet, but I've taught every grade from 8th to 12th, English and Spanish.
Pollyanna, how would you compare the education system there to Brazil?
It is very different. In Brazil, when you go to public school, you don't get the same level of education that somebody, for example, who goes to a private institute of education. And here in Norway, both the private sector and the public sector, they're both very, very, very good. They're on the same level. Usually, kids in Brazil who go to the public schools, they end up later on in life having difficulties getting into college. So they created a few years back some, it's almost like an affirmative action program where they would give certain minorities entry to certain programs because of this, because of there's no equality when it comes to the system, public and private. And here in Norway is very, it's pretty much equal. I've taught at a private school and I've taught at actually two private schools, but all the others were public schools here in Norway, and they're all on the same level. They have the same type of equipment, they have the same level of educators available. And what I noticed was when I was teaching in Brazil, I taught in the private sector only. And I could see how, whenever we got maybe one student who came to us on a scholarship program, that they had difficulties following with the program because they came from the public sector. So Brazil still has a long way to go in that area, but there are lots of very inspiring teachers there. I see my friends and the work that they do so that they can create a new reality for the future.
You certainly have extensive experience as an educator, so thank you for all you're doing to help other people. What is the graduation rate like there in Norway?
I think it's very high. It's
It
very,
sounds
very
like
high.
it.
And especially because there's so many opportunities. Even if you, some of the kids, for example, they choose to get a technical degree. Those kids, they start making money straight away. So they have that incentive to finish their education so they can already get a job and get good pay. So very they're encouraged from a very young age here.
And I'd love for you to share with our audience who people who might be interested in becoming an educator, becoming a professor, teaching languages. What tips, what advice do you have for them?
I think that starting off, when people tell me, for example, I only speak English. I hear some of my native speakers of English who are my students. I only speak. That is such a tremendous start because everybody in the world is trying to learn English or can speak a certain level of English. Based off of English, you can learn other languages. I have been working on a book for people who speak English as a first language to learn Norwegian. And I have done the same thing with people who want to learn Norwegian, but I wrote this grammar book based off of Portuguese. So what you need to do first, if you're interested in becoming a teacher in this area, is never give up on learning a language, even if it becomes a little difficult. Practice does make perfect. Everybody is equipped with the ability to learn a language. Depending on which country you're in, you can become a professor with a master's degree, and postgraduate studies. That's what I did in Australia. I was a professor there for 1 year, and I was a professor in Brazil for a couple of years teaching techniques and approaches in teaching EFL, English as a foreign language. And it's that's the start for everything. So when people say to me, "But I only speak English." No, you're lucky that you speak English because you can jump into another language. There are lots of books out there made for people to learn languages, and the explanations, the grammar is usually translated into English.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think also that app, the Duolingo, how do you say it? Duo?
I say Duolingo, but I'm not sure how different people say it different ways. Duolingo.
Duolingo. And it's free, isn't it? Or maybe the app costs
It's free.
something, but you can, it's
It's
free.
free. And you can, if you speak English, there are more languages accessible to you. You can learn any other language. And I tell my students sometimes that if you want to take a break from studying the grammar and doing all of that in the orthodox way, just pick up Duolingo and play a little bit because it feels like you're playing a game.
It
Instead
does.
of playing a game on your phone, you're playing that, and it becomes, they give you a build up, they give you a little bit, and every time you play, they teach you new words. The program was made so that you learn at least a few new words every time you play. So that it's a really interesting program. There's also Quizlet. Quizlet has lots and lots, but they're not, how do I put it? They're most of the study sets on Quizlet, they are made by teachers. I have, I think, 100 and something study sets that I made and I put out on Quizlet. If you go to Quizlet.com, you'll find me there as well. There are lots of
Oh, how
study sets.
exciting. That's
Yes.
great. I will go there.
And you can learn Norwegian more than the other languages, because most of the most of the material has been made by me while I was teaching Norwegians how to speak other languages, and a lot of it is translated from English to Norwegian. So
And
it
Pollyanna,
is,
is that Quizlet?
yes, Quizlet.
Quizlet.com. And
And
we
if
put your
you,
name in with
yeah, Polyana Nielsen, yeah, and you
one
show up.
L and one N.
Yes.
Fantastic. And also for people who are interested in registering for Miss Regal World, how does that work?
There is the website missregalworld.com, and they're on Facebook as well, the page for Miss Regal World. And all the information will be there. They're probably going to start already in the beginning of the year. They already start, because I remember I registered in February this year.
Okay.
So
So if you're interested in entering a beauty pageant that is, and they don't even call it a beauty pageant anymore, do they?
it's a pageant,
The
and
pageant.
everyone in it is beautiful. And
Yes.
that's the part that I love about this pageant, because there's none of, oh, you have to be this tall and you have to be no, you can be any shape and size, and you can be yourself. And all types of beauty are welcome in the pageant.
There you have it, folks. I'm going to look into it myself and see what's involved. Why
You
not?
should, absolutely. Absolutely. There is the classic division, which I'm going to be probably in a year or so I'll be eligible for the classic division in Miss Regal World. Is for ladies 50 plus, and I'm turning 50 next year. I want to have something big. I want to do something big for my big 50 next year.
Well, guess what? You're going to have to come back and tell us what your beauty tips are. Why your skin looks so beautiful. You look much younger than your years. So,
Thank you.
yes, you look fabulous. And you are beautiful inside and out. And I really appreciate you being here
Thank
with
you.
us today. Thank you. So, I'm going to spotlight you. And even though your banner has been scrolling, people on the radio would like to know how to reach out to you as well. So, how do people contact you and who should contact you?
Anybody who's interested in literature and languages, I teach Norwegian, Portuguese, Spanish, and English as a foreign language, and I can be found on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. It's Polyana Nielsen, Polyana Nielsen, as in Leslie Nielsen, that funny actor. No, but we're not related though.
He was definitely one of my favorite actors. He's so
Mine
funny.
too.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Pollyanna. We'll look forward to
Thank you
having
for
you back
having me.
again. And in the meantime, keep doing whatever you're doing because it looks great on you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you again.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Wonderful woman, and so glad she could be here joining us from Norway. So I do have a few updates for our audience today. I've been talking for a while about this brochure on the talking heads and opportunities to join us on USA Global TV. And guess what? It's available. It's complete. It's finished. So I will be sending this out to people who have reached out to me. If you are wondering what is a talking head, let's take a look at our trailer for Talking Heads, and then I'll be right back. There you have it, our trailer for Talking Heads, which is one of our programs for people who are experts in their field. If you've been in your field a significant amount of time and people look to you for your expertise, we'd like to hear from you. You can contact me at Jacalyn at drjacalyn.com, and we will set up an interview, not here, of course, but we'll set up an interview offline where we can get to know you and understand your work and what you're hoping to accomplish, and make sure that there's a value for value exchange. So we encourage you again to reach out and contact me. I'm just looking for my banner, Jacalyn at Dr. Jacalyn. Here it is. The other thing I want to share with you is yesterday we had 2 seminars for the power of listening. And I think they were really well received, a lot of interactivity, engagement with the participants. We watched role plays and looked at people's behavior, and then had a conversation about it and talked about how what we saw might represent or mirror what we have in our own lives. So based on that and the feedback, we are going to be offering the power of listening on a regular basis. Why? Because it's so important, especially at this time of life when there are so many things that people don't necessarily agree with, and people are polar opposites. And we really want to encourage peace in the world. And so how can we be more peaceful? How can we each do our role to help one another? It's truly to listen without judgment, to listen without trying to come up with a solution, to give people a safe place where they can feel heard. And who doesn't want to feel heard and feel safe and have a relationship based on trust? So to be an expert listener, you have to take training. You have to study. You have to practice. It doesn't come to us innately. When we go to school, we just had Polyana here, an educator. They don't have a course on listening. They should. I'm not saying they don't anywhere, but I've never taken one. All my education, I've never had a course on listening. So I had to do the work myself, become a certified coach. And now my area of expertise is really helping people listen to one another, whether it's a personal couple or whether it's in a professional situation. We all need to be better listeners. That is a fact. There's an article I found from the Harvard Business Review that was written in 1957. And why I found it so fascinating was that really nothing's changed in terms of how important it is for us to listen, but yet we're not doing anything to hone our skills and be better listeners in most cases. So I'm here to change that. You can reach out to me for one-on-one coaching, for couples coaching, or to join the Power of Listening seminar. As I mentioned, we will be offering this on a regular basis, and you can go to my website where this information is all located under Book Your Session. Okay, finally, we've got more shows today. I think today I have 9 shows. We've got Talking Heads coming up next, and our 2 expert presenters today are Diane Floyd-Beam and Ricky McKenna. So I hope you'll join us for that. Immediately thereafter is presenting Pet Psychic Amina, and Amina has the day off. Our guest will be Alex Utterman. And then we have Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. And my guest is the fantastic Caroline Heward. And then finally, I will be closing out the day as the listening mentor, answering your questions. If you have questions about relationships, or you have questions about how to listen, or what is the difference between listening and hearing, anything involving clarity, listening, and relationships, please feel free to email me. I'm scrolling my email address, Jacalyn at drjacalyn.com, and I will read your questions on the air. I will not mention your name, obviously. And then after I do the listening mentor here, I hop over to Instagram and do an Instagram live so that the folks over there can hear the questions as well. So thank you again for joining us, and I hope to see you back here very shortly. Bye.